Commander Jake Morrison stared at the screen in front of him. The numbers didn't make sense. His ship, the Harmony, had been traveling through empty space for 3 weeks. They were supposed to be mapping this part of the galaxy. It was boring. Work, but someone had to do it. "Commander, you need to see this," said Lisa Rodriguez from her station. She was the ship's science officer and the smartest person Jake had ever met. When Lisa looked worried, everyone paid attention. Jake walked over to her workstation. The screen showed a spinning image of space. In the center was a small dot that pulsed with strange colors. "What am I looking at?" Jake asked. "Energy readings from the Kepler 442 system," Lisa said. "There's something on the third moon of the gas giant. It's giving off a signal we've never seen before." Jake looked closer at the screen. The signal wasn't random. It had a pattern. It reminded him of something, but he couldn't figure out what. "How far are we from there?" he asked. 2 days at current speed," said Pete Wilson, the ship's pilot. Pete was young, but good at his job. He could fly through an asteroid field without breaking a sweat. "Change course," Jake ordered. "Let's go take a look." The next 2 days felt like the longest of Jake's life. The crew ran every test they could think of. The signal was definitely artificial. Someone or something had made it. But it was old. Very old. Dr. Emma Walsh, the ship's other science officer, spent hours trying to decode the signal. She had worked with alien languages before. Most of them followed similar patterns. This one was different. "It's not like any communication we've seen," Emma told Jake as they sat in the ship's small dining area. "It's almost like—" "Like what?" Jake asked. Emma shook her head. "This will sound crazy, but it's almost like music." Jake raised an eyebrow. "Music? The patterns repeat, but with variations. Like a song with verses and a chorus. But it's more complex than any music humans have ever made." The Harmony reached the Kepler 442 system on schedule. The gas giant was huge and purple, with rings that sparkled in the light of the distant star. Its third moon was small and gray. From space, it looked dead. "Life signs?" Jake asked as they got closer. "None," Lisa reported. "The atmosphere is thin, but breathable. Gravity is about 60% of Earth normal. Temperature is cold, but not deadly if we wear suits. Any signs of civilization?" "That's the strange part," Lisa said. "There are structures on the surface. They're not natural, but our scans show they're very old, maybe thousands of years." Jake made his decision. "Prep the landing shuttle. Lisa, Emma, and Carlos come with me. Pete, keep the ship ready for a quick exit." Carlos Mitchell was the ship's security chief. He was a big man who didn't talk much, but Jake trusted him completely. If they ran into trouble on the moon's surface, Carlos would get them out. The shuttle landed near the largest structure the ship's scans had found. Through the shuttle's windows, Jake could see a crystal formation that rose from the moon's surface like a frozen tree. It was beautiful and strange at the same time. The 4 humans put on their environmental suits and stepped outside. The moon's surface was covered in fine dust that their boots kicked up with each step. The crystal structure was even more impressive up close. It was about 50 feet tall and seemed to be made of some kind of translucent material that caught and reflected light in amazing ways. "The energy readings are off the charts," Lisa said, checking her handheld scanner. "Whatever this thing is, it's still active after all these years." Emma walked around the base of the structure. "There are markings here," she called out. "They look like symbols, but they're not carved. They seem to be part of the crystal itself." Jake approached the structure carefully. As he got closer, he could feel something. It was like a vibration, but not one he could hear. He felt it in his bones. "Are you getting this vibration?" he asked the others. "Yes," Carlos said. "It's getting stronger." Emma had her equipment out and was taking readings. The vibration has a frequency of 432 hertz. That's interesting. Why? Jake asked. It's a frequency that appears in human music a lot. Some people think it has special properties. Jake reached out toward the crystal. Commander, I wouldn't touch that if I were you, Lisa warned. But Jake's curiosity got the better of him. His gloved hand touched the surface of the crystal. The world exploded into light, and Sound. Jake found himself standing in the same place. But everything was different. The moon's surface was covered in buildings made of the same crystal material. The sky was full of floating platforms and strange vehicles. And there were beings everywhere. They were tall and thin, with skin that seemed to shimmer like the crystal. Structures. They moved gracefully, and Jake realized they were communicating without making any sound he could hear. Instead, the crystals around them glowed and pulsed in patterns. Jake tried to move, but found he couldn't. He was watching, not participating. This was a recording of some kind, a memory preserved in the crystal. The scene changed. The crystal. Beings were gathered in a great hall. One of them stood in the center, and as it moved, the crystals around the hall created sounds. Beautiful, complex sounds that Jake had never heard before. It was music, but unlike any music humans had ever made. The music told a story. Jake couldn't understand the words, but he could feel the meaning. The beings called themselves the Melodians. They had built their entire civilization around music and harmony. Every building, every tool, every part of their daily life was connected to sound and vibration. But something was wrong. The music became darker, more urgent. Jake saw images of space, of stars going dark one by one. Something was coming. Something that fed on chaos and discord. The Melodians were afraid. The scene changed again. The Melodians were working frantically on something. They were combining their music with technology, trying to create a weapon. But they were running out of time. The dark thing was getting closer. The last image Jake saw was of the Melodians placing their memories and knowledge into the crystals. They knew they wouldn't survive, but they hoped someone else might find their work and finish what they had started. The vision ended. Jake found himself back on the dead moon, his hand still touching the crystal. The others were looking at him with concern. Jake, you've been standing there for 10 minutes, Lisa said. We were about to pull you away. Jake removed his hand from the crystal and turned to face his crew. We need to get this crystal back to the ship, he said. And then we need to contact Earth immediately. Why? Emma asked. What did you see? Jake looked back at the crystal structure, then up at the stars above them. Somewhere out there, the thing that had destroyed the Melodians was still moving through space. And now it was humanity's problem to solve. Alex Chun sat in his small apartment overlooking the city of New Angeles. Rain was hitting his window as he stared at the holographic display floating above his desk. The crystal from the moon was now sitting in a laboratory on Earth, but its secrets were proving difficult to unlock. Alex was not like most people who studied alien languages. While others focused on written symbols or spoken words, Alex had always been interested in how music and language connected. He could play 7 different instruments and spoke 12 languages. When the government needed someone to study the Melodian crystal, his name was at the top of their list. The crystal had been on Earth for 2 weeks now. Every day, Alex and Dr. Emma Walsh worked together to understand what the Melodians had left behind. Emma was brilliant with technology and computers. Alex understood patterns and sounds. Together, they were slowly making progress. Play it again, Alex said to Emma as she worked at her computer terminal. The room filled with the strange sounds from the crystal. To most people, it sounded like random noise. But Alex heard something different. He heard structure. He heard meaning. There, Alex said, pointing at the holographic display. That sequence repeats every 47 seconds, but with small changes each time. Emma nodded and highlighted the pattern on her screen, like a theme and variations in classical music. Exactly. But it's more than just music. It's carrying information. Alex had been a musician since he was 5 years old. His parents had wanted him to become a doctor or lawyer, but music called to him. He had studied at the best schools and played with famous orchestras. But he had always felt like something was missing from human music. Now, listening to the melodian sounds, he thought he understood what that missing piece was. The melodians didn't just make music for entertainment. Music was how they thought. It was how they communicated. It was how they understood the universe itself. I think I'm starting to understand their basic grammar, Alex told Emma as they worked late into the night. Low tones seem to represent physical objects. High tones are emotions or abstract concepts. The rhythm carries the relationship between ideas. That's incredible, Emma said. If you're right, then this isn't just a language. It's a completely different way of thinking. Alex played a section of the recording again. This time, he hummed along with parts of it. As he did, something strange happened. The crystal in the laboratory began to glow brighter. Emma, are you seeing this? Alex asked, pointing at the energy readings on her screen. The crystal is responding. To your voice, Emma said with excitement. It's like it recognizes that you understand. Over the next few days, Alex worked with the crystal directly. He would hum or sing different patterns, and the crystal would respond by showing new holographic images. Slowly, a story began to emerge. The Melodians had lived for thousands of years in perfect harmony. Their cities were beautiful beyond anything humans had built. Their art and science were advanced in ways that seemed almost magical. But then something had appeared in their part of the galaxy. The crystal showed Alex images of stars going dark. Entire solar systems were simply disappearing. The Melodians had sent ships to investigate, but none had ever returned. It's some kind of entity, Alex explained to Emma in a room full of government officials. The Melodians called it the Void Singer. It doesn't destroy things in the way we understand destruction. It makes them cease to exist. General Kate Murphy, who was in charge of Earth's defense forces, looked worried. How big is this thing? From what I can understand, it's not really a physical creature, Alex said. It exists partially outside normal space. It feeds on discord and chaos. The more conflict and negative emotions it encounters, the stronger it becomes. And it's headed this way? Asked Dr. Richard Stone, the head of the Alien Research Project. Alex nodded. The Melodians tried to fight it. They created a weapon using their harmonic technology. But they ran out of time before they could complete it. Emma pulled up a new display. The crystal contains partial instructions for building this weapon, but it's incomplete. The Melodians managed to hide parts of the information in other crystals before the Void Singer reached their world. How many other crystals? General Murphy asked. At least 12, Alex said. They're scattered across different star systems. Each one contains a piece of the weapon's design. And we need all of them to stop this thing? Not just the crystals. Alex said quietly, the weapon requires something else. Something the Melodians had, but couldn't sustain long enough to complete their work. What? Asked Dr. Stone. Perfect harmony, Alex said. Not just musical harmony, but emotional and spiritual unity. The weapon is powered by the combined consciousness of an entire species working together without any discord or conflict. The room fell silent. General Murphy was the first to speak. Have you seen humanity lately? We can't agree on what to eat for lunch, let alone achieve perfect harmony. Alex understood her concern. Humans were not known for their ability to work together peacefully. Wars, arguments, and disagreements were a constant part of human history. There's something else, Emma said, bringing up another display. The crystal is giving us coordinates to the other Melodian sites. But there's a problem. Some of them are in very dangerous parts of the galaxy, and the Void Singer is still out. There, if we go looking for these crystals, we might attract its attention. How long do we have? General Murphy asked. Alex looked at the calculations on Emma's screen. Based on the rate it was moving when it destroyed the Melodians, and factoring in where it might have gone since then, maybe 2 years, maybe less. Dr. Stone stood up. Then we need to start immediately. I'll authorize a deep space mission, too. Recover these crystals. Wait, Alex said. There's something you need to understand. The crystals won't just give up their information to anyone. They respond to musical ability, but more than that, they respond to genuine emotion and artistic expression. We're going to need musicians on this mission. Real musicians, not just scientists who happen to play instruments. General Murphy looked skeptical. You want to send artists into deep space to fight an ancient cosmic entity? I want to send humans, Alex said firmly. The Melodians failed because they were too logical, too perfect. They couldn't understand chaos and discord well enough to fight it. But humans ... We live with chaos every day. We create beauty from conflict. We find harmony. In the middle of discord, that might be exactly what we need. Emma was studying new information flowing from the crystal. Alex, you need to see this. The crystal is showing us something new. The holographic display showed a map of the galaxy with pulsing lights marking the locations of the other crystals. But there was something else. A dark area that seemed to be growing, moving slowly but steadily toward their part of space. The Void Singer, Alex whispered. It's still out there. And according to this, it's already started moving in our direction. General Murphy stood up quickly. How long did you say we had? Alex looked at the new data. His face went pale. I was wrong. We don't have 2 years. We have 18 months, maybe less. The room erupted in urgent conversations as people began making plans, but Alex barely heard them. He was staring at the crystal, listening to its ancient song, and wondering if humanity could really achieve the impossible harmony they would need to survive. Captain Jenny Foster stood on the bridge of the Resonance, the most advanced ship humanity had ever built. She had been chosen to lead this mission, not because she was the best pilot or the smartest officer, but because she understood people. The success of this mission would depend entirely on getting very different personalities to work together perfectly. The ship was beautiful and deadly at the same time. It had been built in just 8 months, using technology learned from the Melodian crystal. The hull was embedded with harmonic resonators that could amplify musical frequencies across space. Every surface on the ship could vibrate in perfect tune with the crystals they were searching for. But the real heart of the mission wasn't the technology. It was the crew. Ryan Adams sat in his quarters, tuning his violin. The instrument had been with him for 15 years, through good times and bad. He had played in concert halls around the world, but he had never imagined he would take his violin into deep space to save humanity. Ryan had grown up poor in Detroit. Music had been his escape from a difficult childhood. When he played, the world made sense. His violin could make people cry, laugh, or feel things they had forgotten they could feel. Now the government was telling him that his music might be the key to stopping an ancient evil. The violin felt different in his hands now. After spending time near the Melodian crystal on Earth, something had changed. The wood seemed warmer, more alive. When he played certain notes, he could swear he felt the ship itself responding. Down the hall, Maria Santos was doing vocal exercises. Her voice had always been special, but now it seemed to carry new power. She could hit notes that shouldn't have been possible for a human throat. She could sustain tones for minutes, without taking a breath. Maria had been born in Mexico City and had worked her way up from singing in small clubs to performing opera on the world's greatest stages. She was used to pressure, but this was different. This wasn't about impressing an audience. This was about the survival of her species. In the ship's percussion section, Carlos Mitchell was setting up his drum kit. Carlos was different from Ryan and Maria. While they had spent their lives in concert halls and opera houses, Carlos had learned music on the streets of Los Angeles. He played jazz, rock, and hip-hop with equal skill. His sense of rhythm was so perfect that other musicians said he had time itself flowing through his veins. The government recruiters had found Carlos playing with a small band in a club downtown. They had listened to him play for exactly 30 seconds before deciding he was exactly what they needed. Carlos still wasn't sure he understood why his drumming was so important, but he was ready to find out. Captain Jenny Foster brought the crew together in the main conference room. Alex Chun was there too, connected by video link from Earth. The crystal sat in a special chamber in the ship's center, glowing softly as it responded to the presence of the musicians. "Our first destination is the Vega system," Jenny told them. "Long-range scans have detected a crystal formation on the second planet. The planet is mostly desert, but it has a breathable atmosphere." Alex's voice came through the speakers from Earth. "The harmonic sequence to activate the Vega crystal is complex. Ryan, you'll need to start with a melody in D minor, building to a crescendo in the 5th octave. Maria, your part comes in during the second movement with sustained vowel tones. Carlos, your rhythm section provides the foundation that keeps everything stable." Ryan looked at the musical notation on his tablet. It was unlike anything he had ever seen. The notes seemed to shift and change depending on how he looked at them. "This doesn't follow any musical theory I know," he said. "That's because it's not just music," Alex explained. "It's a language. Every note carries meaning. Every rhythm tells part of a story. The melodians weren't just making pretty sounds. They were literally reshaping reality through harmonic vibration." The resonance left Earth orbit on a Tuesday morning. As they passed the moon, Ryan stood at the observation deck and played a soft melody on his violin. The sound echoed through the ship's harmonic chambers, and for a moment, everyone on board felt connected to something larger than themselves. The journey to Vega took 3 weeks. During that time, the musicians practiced together every day. At first, it was difficult. Ryan was used to being the lead performer. Maria was accustomed to commanding the stage with her voice. Carlos had always been part of a rhythm section, but never one where every beat could mean the difference between success and failure. But slowly, something began to happen. The 3 musicians started to understand each other in ways that went beyond words. When Ryan drew his bow across the strings, Maria could feel the emotion he was expressing and match it with her voice. When Carlos adjusted his rhythm, the other 2 naturally followed without thinking. Captain Jenny watched their progress with growing amazement. She had seen military units train for months to achieve the kind of coordination these 3 musicians were developing in weeks. "It's like they're becoming one person," she told Dr. Lisa Rodriguez, who was monitoring the musical experiments. "In a way they are," Lisa replied. "The Melodian technology doesn't just amplify sound. It amplifies the emotional and mental connection between performers. They're learning to share consciousness." When they reached the Vega system, the crew could see the second planet was covered in red sand and ancient ruins. Long-range scans detected the crystal formation at the center of what had once been a great city. The landing party consisted of Jenny, the 3 musicians, Lisa, and 4 security officers. They took a shuttle down to the planet's surface, landing near the ruins. The Melodian city had been magnificent once. Even in ruins, the crew could see evidence of incredible architecture. Buildings had been grown rather than built, shaped from. The same crystal material they had found on the first moon dot at the center of the city stood a crystal spire that reached toward the sky like a frozen flame. It was larger than the first crystal, and its energy readings were much stronger. "It's beautiful," Maria whispered as they approached the spire. Ryan had his violin ready. According to Alex's instructions, he needed to begin the harmonic sequence. As soon as they were within 50 meters of the crystal dot, as Ryan lifted his bow to the strings, he felt a strange sensation. It was as if the crystal was waiting for him, eager to share its secrets after thousands of years of silence. He began to play. The melody that came from his violin was haunting and beautiful. But more than that, it was alive. The notes seemed to hang in the air, creating patterns of light that danced around the crystal spire. Maria joined in with her voice, adding layers of harmony that made the very air around them shimmer. Carlos began a rhythm on his portable drums. That seemed to make the ground beneath their feet pulse with life. The crystal responded immediately. Light flowed up its surface like water flowing upward. Images began to appear in the air around them, holographic memories of the Melodians who had once lived in this city. But these weren't just recordings. As the three humans played together, they could feel the thoughts and emotions of the ancient aliens. They experienced the Melodians' joy in their music, their fear as the Void Singer approached, and their desperate hope that someone would find their work and complete it. New information flowed into their minds. Technical specifications for the harmonic weapon, coordinates to the next crystal site, and something else, a growing understanding of what they were really fighting. The Void Singer wasn't just a destroyer. It was the opposite of harmony itself. It fed on discord, conflict, and negative emotion. The more chaos it encountered, the stronger it became. But the Melodians had discovered something important. The entity had a weakness. Perfect harmony, the kind that could only be achieved when different voices came together in unity, was like poison to a dot. As the vision ended and the crystal's light faded, Ryan lowered his violin. All three musicians were breathing hard, as if they had just run a long race. "Did you feel that?" Maria asked. "We were connected," Carlos said quietly. "Not just to each other, but to them. To the Melodians." Ryan looked at his violin with new understanding. The instrument had changed again during their performance. The wood now had veins of crystal running through it, glowing softly with its own inner light. Captain Jenny helped them back to the shuttle. As they lifted off from the planet, she looked back at the crystal spire. "How many more sites do we need to visit?" 11, Lisa answered, checking her readings. "But each one will be more dangerous than the last. And we're running out of time." In the distance, invisible to their instruments, but felt by the three musicians, something vast and hungry had noticed their activities. The Void Singer was still, far away, but it was no longer simply drifting through space. It was coming for them. The alarms on the resonance were screaming as Captain Jenny Foster ran to the bridge. 3 weeks had passed since they activated the crystal in the Vega system. In that time, they had successfully visited 4 more Melodian sites. But now everything was going wrong. "Report," Jenny ordered as she reached her command chair. "Long-range sensors are picking up massive energy distortions," said Lieutenant Sam Parker from his station. "Something big is moving through the Arcturus sector. Really big." On the main screen, Jenny could see the readings. What they were looking at shouldn't have been possible. Space itself seemed to be bending and twisting in ways that hurt to think about. Dr. Lisa Rodriguez was already analyzing the data. "The distortion is moving at incredible speed. At this rate, it will reach our current position in 6 hours. Jenny felt her stomach drop. "Is it the Void Singer?" "I think so," Lisa said, quietly. "And it's not just moving randomly anymore. It's headed straight for us." In his quarters, Ryan Adams was trying to practice, but his hands were shaking. Every time he drew his bow across the violin strings, the crystal-infused wood sent waves of emotion through him. He could feel something vast and hungry approaching. It was like standing in front of an avalanche and watching it roll toward you. The violin had been changing ever since their first encounter with the melodeon crystal. Now it was more crystal than wood. When Ryan played, reality seemed to bend around the music. Yesterday, he had accidentally made a cup of water freeze solid just by playing a sad melody. The power was growing stronger, but it was also becoming harder to control. Ryan's head was pounding. The doctors said it was just stress, but Ryan knew better. Each time they activated a melodeon crystal, each time he channeled the ancient alien technology through his music, something inside him was burning out. He could feel his life force being drained away, note by note, but he couldn't stop. Humanity needed him to keep playing. Down the hall, Maria Santos was having her own problems. Her voice had become so powerful that she had to be careful when she spoke. Yesterday, she had laughed at a joke and accidentally shattered 3 wine glasses in the dining hall. Her vocal cords were changing, becoming something more than human. Carlos Mitchell was the only one who seemed to be handling the transformation well. His connection to rhythm and time had always been strong, but now he could actually feel the heartbeat of the universe itself. Every star, every planet, every living thing pulsed with its own rhythm, and Carlos could hear them all. The 3 musicians met in the ship's practice room as the alarms continued to sound. They had learned to communicate without words now, sharing thoughts and emotions through their musical connection. "It's found us," Ryan said, not needing to explain what it was. "I can feel it too," Maria agreed. "It's like a hole in space where music goes to die." Carlos was setting up his drums with quick, efficient movements. "Whatever we're going to do, we need to do it fast. That thing is getting closer every minute." "Captain." Jenny's voice came over the ship's communication system. "All hands, this is the captain. We have confirmation that the Void Singer has detected our activities. Earth Command is sending every available ship to intercept, but they won't reach us in time. We're on our own." Ryan picked up his violin. The instrument was now more crystal than wood, glowing with its own inner light. When he held it, he could hear whispers from the Melodians who had died thousands of years ago. They were trying to warn him about something, but their voices were too faint to understand clearly. The ship shuddered as something passed nearby. Through the practice room's window, Ryan could see stars going out one by one. The Void Singer was consuming everything in its path. "We need to try the weapon," Maria said. "Even without all the crystals, we have to try something." They had collected pieces of the Melodian weapon from 7 different sites. According to Alex Chun's calculations, back on Earth, they needed at least 10 pieces to have a chance of success. But with the Void Singer bearing down on them, they were out of time. The 3 musicians took their positions. Ryan stood at the center of the room, his crystal violin catching the light from the emergency systems. Maria flanked him to the left, her hands pressed together as she prepared to sing. Carlos sat behind his drum kit, his sticks ready. They began to play. The music that filled the ship was unlike anything they had created before. Ryan's violin sang with the voices of dead civilizations. Maria's voice carried the hopes and dreams of countless worlds. Carlos's drums beat with the rhythm of creation itself. For a moment, it seemed to work. The ship's harmonic resonators amplified their music and sent it out into space. The approaching darkness hesitated, as if surprised to encounter something it didn't understand. But then the Void Singer struck back. The creature wasn't just a physical entity. It existed in the spaces between thoughts, in the silence between notes. As the 3 humans played their desperate song, the Void Singer reached into their minds and began to twist their music into discord. Ryan felt his melody turning sour. Notes that should have been beautiful became harsh and painful. His violin was fighting against him, the crystal trying to maintain harmony while the void singer pulled everything toward chaos. Maria's voice cracked as the entity attacked her through her own song. She tried to maintain her part of the harmony, but every note she sang was being corrupted by the creature's influence. Carlos was the first to realize what was happening. "It's not just destroying," he shouted over the noise. "It's learning from us. Every note we play, it's figuring out how to turn it against us." The practice room began to shake as the ship's harmonic systems overloaded. Through the window, Ryan could see other human ships arriving. The entire Earth fleet had come to help, but their weapons were useless against an enemy that existed partially outside normal space. Ryan watched in horror as the first Earth ship simply ceased to exist. One moment it was there, firing lasers and missiles at the darkness. The next moment, there was just empty space where it had been. "We're making it stronger," Maria gasped, her voice barely working. "Every time we fight it, every bit of conflict we create, it feeds on that energy." The void singer was close enough now that they could see it directly. It wasn't really a creature at all. It was a hole in reality itself, a place where the universe had forgotten how to exist. And it was huge, bigger than a planet, bigger than... Ryan made a desperate decision. If harmony wasn't working, maybe he needed to try something else. He changed his melody, shifting from the careful patterns the Melodians had designed to something purely human, something chaotic and unpredictable. He played jazz. The sudden shift in musical style caught the void singer off guard. Jazz was full of improvisation, of controlled chaos, of finding harmony in the middle of discord. It was something the perfectly logical Melodians had never understood. For just a moment, the creature's advance slowed. "That's it," Carlos shouted, immediately shifting his drumming to match Ryan's new direction. "It doesn't understand chaos that creates beauty instead of destroying it." Maria joined in, her operatic training allowing her to improvise vocals that wove in and out of Ryan's jazz melody. The three of them were no longer playing melodian harmony. They were playing human music, with all its imperfections and surprises. But the effort was too much for Ryan's transformed body. Blood began to flow from his nose as the crystal violin demanded more energy than he could give. The instrument was trying to channel the power of an entire civilization through one human musician. "I can't keep this up much longer," Ryan said, his voice weak. The void singer was adapting to their new strategy. It was learning to feed on controlled chaos, just as easily as it fed on pure discord. "Captain," Jenny's voice came over the communication system again. "All ships fall back to Earth. We need to regroup and find another solution." But Ryan knew there wouldn't be time for another solution. The creature was too close, too powerful. Once it reached Earth, humanity would join the Melodians in extinction. Looked at his violin, now glowing so brightly it was hard to look it directly. The whispers of the dead Melodians were getting louder. They were trying to tell him something important, something about the nature of the weapon they had tried to build. Suddenly, Ryan understood. The Melodians hadn't failed because their weapon was incomplete. They had failed because they were trying to fight the void singer with pure harmony. But harmony wasn't the opposite of chaos. The opposite of chaos was unity and diversity. It was different voices coming together to create something beautiful, not identical voices singing the same song. "The weapon isn't supposed to destroy it," Ryan said, his eyes wide with realization. "It's supposed to transform it. But that would require more than 3 musicians. It would require the combined voices of humanity itself." And Ryan wasn't sure his body could survive channeling that much power through his crystal violin. Outside the ship, the void singer continued its approach, consuming everything in its path. Time was running out for humanity, and their greatest weapon was slowly killing the only person who could use it. Ryan Adams sat in the medical bay of the resonance, his crystal violin resting across his lap. Dr. Lisa Rodriguez was checking his vital signs for the third time in an hour. The numbers were not good. "Your body is breaking down," Lisa told him. "Honestly, the crystal technology is burning through your life force faster than we can treat it. You have maybe 6 hours before your nervous system shuts down completely." Ryan nodded calmly. He had known this was coming. Every time he played the violin, every time he channeled the power of the ancient melodians, he could feel himself fading away. But he also knew that those 6 hours might be all humanity had left. The Void Singer had reached the outer edge of the solar system. Earth's defense fleet was falling back toward home, but their weapons were useless. Every shot they fired, every missile they launched, just gave the creature more chaos to feed on. Captain Jenny Foster stood at the communication console, speaking directly to Earth Command. "We need to evacuate the planet," she was saying. "Get as many people as possible off-world before that thing arrives." But Alex Chun's voice came through the speakers from Earth with grim news. "There's no time, Jenny. Even our fastest ships can't evacuate more than a few thousand people. We have 8 billion humans on Earth, and maybe 12 hours before the Void Singer reaches us." Ryan stood up slowly, his legs shaking from the effort. "There's another way," he said. Everyone on the bridge turned to look at him. His skin was pale and there were dark circles under his eyes, but his grip on the violin was steady. "The melodians tried to fight it with perfect harmony," Ryan continued. "But that's not what humans do. We don't achieve harmony by being the same. We achieve it by being different and choosing to work together anyway." Maria Santos and Carlos Mitchell had joined them on the bridge. Like Ryan, they were both showing signs of strain from their connection to the melodian technology. But they were still strong enough to play. "What are you suggesting?" Jenny asked. Ryan looked out at the stars, where the Void Singer was slowly approaching like a storm cloud made of nothingness. "We connect every human on Earth to our performance. Every voice, every instrument, every heartbeat. We turn the entire human race into one giant orchestra." Alex's voice came through the speakers again. "That's impossible. The harmonic resonators on your ship can't reach that far. And even if they could, how do you coordinate 8 billion people to play music? Together?" "We don't need to coordinate them," Maria said, understanding what Ryan was thinking. "We just need to give them something to respond to. Humans naturally harmonize when they hear music they connect with." Carlos was already thinking about the technical aspects. "The ship's resonators can reach Earth if we boost them with power from the main engines. But Ryan, channeling that much energy through your violin will kill you instantly." "Maybe," Ryan said quietly. "Or maybe it will transform me the same way it's going to transform the Void Singer." Dr. Lisa Rodriguez was monitoring the approaching entity on her scanners. "It's accelerating. Whatever we're going to do, we need to do it in the next 4 hours." Ryan made his decision. Send a message to every communication system on Earth. Tell them what's coming. Tell them we need their help. And tell them to sing. The next 2 hours were the busiest in human history. Every television station, every radio broadcast, every internet stream carried the same message. The Void Singer was coming, and humanity's only chance was to unite in song. At first, people were confused and scared. The idea that music could save them from a cosmic horror seemed ridiculous. But as images of the approaching darkness filled their screens, as they watched Earth's fleet falling back in defeat, desperation took hold. In New York City, a street musician began playing guitar on a corner. Within minutes, hundreds of people had gathered around him, humming along with melodies they had never heard before, but somehow knew. In Tokyo, a children's choir started singing in a school auditorium. The music was broadcast live, and soon millions of people across Japan were singing the same song. In London, a rock band set up on the steps of Parliament and began playing. The crowd that gathered was enormous, their voices joining together in harmony that echoed through the streets. All across Earth, the same thing was happening. Humans were doing what they had always done in times of crisis. They were coming together. On the resonance, Ryan was making final preparations. The ship's engineers had connected every system to the harmonic resonators. When Ryan played his violin, the music would be amplified by the ship's power core and broadcast to every corner of Earth. "Are you sure about this?" Jenny asked him one last time. Ryan smiled, though it took effort. "No, but I've never been sure about anything important in my life. That's what makes it interesting." Maria and Carlos took their positions beside him. They would anchor the performance, providing the foundation that would help 8 billion humans find their part in the cosmic song. Through the ship's windows, they could see Earth in the distance, a blue marble hanging in space. Between them and home, the Void Singer approached like a wave of absolute darkness. Ryan lifted his violin and began to play. The melody that flowed from the crystal instrument was simple at first, just a basic tune that anyone could hum along with. But as it traveled through the ship's resonators and reached Earth, something magical began to happen. People all over the planet heard the music in their minds, felt it in their hearts. Without being told what to do, they began to add their own voices to the song. A mother in Brazil hummed a lullaby that somehow fit perfectly with Ryan's melody. A construction worker in India tapped out a rhythm on his tools that matched Carlos's drums. A teenager in Canada sang pop lyrics that blended seamlessly with Maria's operatic vocals. The music grew and spread like wildfire. Every human voice, every musical instrument on Earth joined the performance, but it wasn't chaos. Somehow, impossibly, 8 billion different people were creating one unified song. Ryan could feel the power flowing through him. The crystal violin was no longer just an instrument. It had become a conduit for the combined consciousness of humanity. Every note he played carried the hopes and dreams of his entire species. The Void Singer noticed the music and began to change course, drawn to this new source of harmony. As it approached Earth, it expected to feed on the discord and chaos of human civilization. Instead, it encountered something it had never experienced before: unity in diversity. Harmony created not through sameness, but through different voices choosing to work together. The creature tried to corrupt the music as it had done before, turning harmony into discord. But this time, something different happened. When it touched the human song, the song didn't break. Instead, it absorbed the darkness and transformed it into something beautiful. Ryan could see it happening through his connection to the violin. The Void Singer wasn't being destroyed. It was being changed, converted from a force of chaos into something that could exist in harmony with the universe. But the effort was killing him. Ryan could feel his life force flowing out of him and into the music. His vision was fading, and his hands were becoming transparent as the crystal energy consumed him. "Keep playing," he whispered to Maria and Carlos. "Don't stop no matter what happens to me." The song reached its crescendo as the Void Singer made contact with Earth's atmosphere. For a moment, the entire planet was surrounded by absolute darkness. Every human voice sang out in defiance of the void, their combined music creating a shield of pure harmony. And then something wonderful happened. The darkness began to glow. The Void Singer, transformed by its contact with human unity, became a swirling aurora of light that danced around the Earth like a protective embrace. Ryan collapsed, his violin clattering to the floor. But he was smiling. Through the windows of the resonance, he could see Earth surrounded by beautiful, shifting lights where the Void Singer had been transformed into something magnificent. The last thing he heard before losing consciousness was. 8 billion human voices, still singing together in perfect, chaotic, beautiful harmony. Ryan Adams opened his eyes to sunlight streaming through a window. For a moment, he was confused. The last thing he remembered was collapsing on the bridge of the resonance as 8 billion human voices sang together in harmony. He had been dying. His life force burned away by the crystal violin. But now he was lying in a hospital bed on Earth, and he felt stronger than he had in months. Dr. Lisa Rodriguez walked into the room carrying a medical tablet. When she saw that Ryan was awake, her face broke into a huge smile. "Welcome back," she said. "You've been unconscious for 3 weeks." Ryan sat up slowly, testing his strength. His hands looked normal again, no longer the translucent crystal they had become during the final performance. What happened? Did it work? Lisa sat down in the chair beside his bed. "See for yourself," she said, pointing toward the window. Ryan looked outside and gasped. The sky was filled with gentle, flowing lights that moved like aurora, but in colors he had never seen before. The lights danced and swirled, creating patterns that were beautiful beyond description. "The Void Singer?" he asked. "Transformed, Lisa." "Confirmed. It's not a destroyer anymore. It's become something like a guardian. The lights you see are it spreading across the galaxy, seeking out other civilizations that might need protection." Ryan stood up and walked to the window. The lights in the sky seemed to pulse gently, almost like they were keeping time with his. "Heartbeat, how am I alive? I felt myself burning away during the performance." "That's the interesting part," Lisa said. "When you channeled the power of 8 billion human voices, something unexpected happened. Instead of destroying you, the energy transformed you. You're still human, but you're also something more now." As if to prove her point, Ryan noticed his reflection in the window glass. His eyes now held flecks of the same crystal that had been in his violin. When he concentrated, he could hear faint melodies carried on the wind from all over the planet. A knock on the door interrupted his thoughts. Maria Santos and Carlos Mitchell entered the room, both looking healthier than they had. "In weeks, the band's back together," Carlos said with a grin, giving Ryan a careful hug. "We thought we'd lost you," Maria added, her voice full of emotion. "When you collapsed, we didn't know if the transformation would work." "How are you two feeling?" Ryan asked. "Different," Maria admitted. "My voice can do things now that shouldn't be possible. Yesterday, I sang a song that helped a deaf child hear for the first time." Carlos nodded, "and my sense of rhythm has expanded. I can feel the musical heartbeat of the entire planet. It's like the whole world is one giant drum kit." Dr. Lisa Rodriguez pulled up a holographic display showing Earth from space. The planet was surrounded by a gentle glow, and streams of light connected it to other points throughout the solar system. "The transformation didn't just affect the Void Singer," she explained. "Humanity has changed too. People all over the world are reporting enhanced musical abilities. Children are being born who can sing in perfect harmony with their parents. Musicians are creating compositions that seem to heal emotional trauma." Ryan studied the display with wonder. "What about the other alien civilizations? Are there others out there?" "We're starting to make contact," Lisa said. "The transformed entity is acting like a beacon, drawing peaceful species toward Earth. We've received 3 different first contact messages in the last week alone." A new voice spoke from the doorway. "And that's where you 3 come in." They turned to see Captain Jenny Foster entering the room, but she wasn't wearing her military uniform anymore. Instead, she wore simple civilian clothes with a badge that read Harmony Institute Director. "Jenny?" Ryan asked. "What's the Harmony Institute?" Jenny smiled. "Your next assignment, if you're willing to take it. The government has asked me to establish a school where humans and aliens can learn to communicate through music. We need teachers who understand both human creativity and melodian harmony. She gestured for them to follow her to the window. Outside, they could see construction crews working on a beautiful new building that seemed to grow from the ground like a crystal flower. The institute will be built around the surviving melodian crystals, Jenny explained. Students from across the galaxy will come here to learn how different species can create harmony together. Not the perfect, identical harmony the melodians tried for, but the messy, beautiful, chaotic harmony that humans do so well. Ryan felt a warmth spreading through his chest. After spending his whole life playing music for human audiences, the idea of teaching alien children to make music together was incredibly exciting. Who else is involved? Maria asked. Alex Chun is heading up the translation department, Jenny said. He's working with linguists from 12 different worlds to create a universal musical language. We've also got artists, scientists, and diplomats from every major human settlement. Carlos was already thinking about the possibilities. Different species probably have completely different concepts of rhythm and melody. A species with 4 arms might approach drumming in ways we've never imagined. Exactly, Jenny said. And that's what makes this so important. Every species we encounter brings new musical possibilities. The more diverse our harmony becomes, the stronger our protection against forces like the old void singer. Over the following months, the Harmony Institute became a reality. The building itself was a marvel of human and alien architecture combined. Crystal spires reached toward the sky, while flowing gardens provided spaces for outdoor performances. Practice rooms were designed to accommodate species with different atmospheric and gravitational needs. Ryan found himself teaching violin to students he never could have imagined. There were the crystalline folk from the Andromeda system, whose bodies chimed like bells when they moved. The Gas Cloud Collective communicated entirely through shifting colors that Ryan learned to translate into musical notes. Most challenging were the time dancers, beings who experienced music across multiple timelines simultaneously. But perhaps his favorite students were the human children who came to the Institute. These kids had been born after the Great Transformation, and their musical abilities were extraordinary. They could harmonize instinctively with alien melodies and seemed to understand the emotional content of music from species they had never encountered before. One afternoon, Ryan stood in the Institute's main courtyard watching a group of children from 6 different worlds playing together. A human girl was teaching a young crystalline how to play a simple melody on a wooden flute. The crystal child's attempts were off-key by human standards, but somehow a combination of wooden notes and crystal chimes created something beautiful. Maria joined him, carrying a data pad with her latest composition. How does it feel? She asked. Saving the galaxy through music education? Ryan smiled as he watched a time dancer child show a human boy how to hear melodies that existed in parallel timelines. It feels like we're just getting started, he said. In the distance, the aurora lights that had once been the Void Singer continued their eternal dance across the sky. But now they had company. New lights were appearing as other transformed entities joined the cosmic orchestra, drawn by the growing harmony, spreading from Earth. The boy with love had become something greater than he had ever imagined. He had become a teacher, a bridge between worlds, and a guardian of the greatest harmony the universe had ever known. And in the Institute's gardens, where children from a dozen worlds learned to make music together, the future of the galaxy was being written one note at a time.